Yes, indeed. It happened to me. I'm Stan Houston of the Christian Entrepreneur Network, and I'm getting all of my past stuff from many, many decades of broadcasting and 25 plus years of being a business performance coach, and taking that material and putting it all together now in what I believe is the work that God has really called me to do, and that is to help you as a Christian entrepreneur to be fully alive, to seek a great life, build a great business, expand your brand, and contribute to your community, your place of worship, and perhaps actually change the world in some small way for the glory of God. That's our deal. And we'd like to get really good at doing it, and we'd like to help you get good at doing it. And I'm putting all that stuff together, and what I discovered is I discovered a book that I had written. That's right, I had written a book about 5 years ago, and I'd forgotten all about it. I forgot I had it. And I'll tell you the story about that. But then I finally read the book that I wrote, and I said, well, this is pretty good. I'd forgotten about it. And so today I'd like to tell you a little bit about the book that I wrote that I forgot about, and how that might be relevant to you and to me as Christian entrepreneurs as I go to the last chapter of my book, and I simply say, how can I not? How can I not? That's coming up. It's Sunday night, flowing into Monday morning as we meet the marketplace. Perhaps this can be helpful and useful and practical to you. I'm Stan Houston. Welcome.
Day by day, day by day, oh dear Lord, 3 things I pray. See thee more clearly, love thee more dearly, follow thee more nearly, day by day.
Well, here's the story. I've written about 3 or 4, 5 books. I have done hundreds, perhaps thousands of written articles and postings. I've done probably 400 or 500 videos and a number of television programs, and they're going to be coming your way as they are appropriate on tcenglobal.org, tcenglobal.org. That's where we hang out with the brand new, in the sense that we're now 1 year old, and we're trying to discover where God wants us to go in 2019 and beyond. How do we make our mark? What is the mark that Jesus wants to put forward to us? And then how is he going to encourage us to press on toward that mark? Well, I'm putting all that together, and I came across a little book, and here was a story. I had been asked by one of my colleagues to do a presentation in Brazil for major business leaders. And this was a big deal, and he had made sure that some of the top people would be there, and he had been able to finagle, because he was quite a negotiator. He was a pastor who was truly an entrepreneurial pastor, and he had it at a big, wonderful resort, and we were ready to make that a real experience. And he said, Stan, we need a book. I said, a book? He said, yeah. And so he said, yeah, I want you to write a little book, and we'll give it to them. Well, I sat down, and boy, did I work hard. And I put that out, and I sent it to him, and he said, this will work great. And he had it translated into Portuguese, and it went quite well there. But then, of all things, I forgot about it. I just forgot about the book. It was called 3%, and it was the 3%. And so I discovered it once again. Isn't that fun to go through the attic of your stuff and find out that you got some stuff there that perhaps can be useful again? So that's what happened. And we're going to share it with you at some time. But just for a few moments on this Sunday night going into Monday morning, I found my last chapter, chapter 7, and I read through it, and it said exactly what I'm trying to say. I wrote this 5-6 years ago, I think now, and I forgot about it, but here is chapter 7 of 3%, and it's called How Can I Not? Some truths about true success. Years ago, a renowned psychiatrist, teacher, and author, the late M. Scott Peck, wrote a best-selling book entitled The Road Less Traveled. In the book, he challenged all of us who wanted to grow to fully develop as mature human beings to reach our full potential, that we had to do things that most people won't do. We had to travel the road less traveled, and hence the name of the book. He let us know that the popular way, the way that most people go, will not lead us to the kind of life we want to live. The book became a long-time bestseller, and it ended its call to life action with a very interesting chapter, based on the old gospel song, Amazing Grace. Scott Peck, who was not a Christian at that time, discovered that in thinking it through, in years of working as a practicing psychiatrist, that there was indeed a phenomenon that can only be called grace, active in our world and in our work. That led to further insights and more life-giving work. Where does grace come from? Well, after that successful book, Dr. Peck went on to a distinguished career, writing many more books and conference speaking to help people create lives, indeed communities, where they could grow and become all they were meant to be. He did not do this as a religious or spiritual exercise, even though at the age of 43, he made a public confession after the success of his first book of having then become a Christian. I'm reminded of Jesus' words from Mark is, hey, you're near the kingdom. You're almost in the kingdom. Well, that's where Dr. Peck was, and that's where he landed up. He said, though, that this was not writing as a Christian. He was writing as a scientist, a psychiatrist, and most importantly, as a healer and helper. His lecture circuit was full, and he reached many people in his many talks and published writings. Later in his life, Dr. Peck combined the practice of psychiatry with one of his favorite pastimes, the game of golf. And he wrote a book entitled Golf and the Spirit, in which he took a favorite golf course and then had each of the holes in his course serve as a metaphor for how we deal with life difficulties, challenges, and the opportunities that come into our life. Then, with a seeming smile on his face, he says that golf was a great game for understanding life because it is one of the few games that can never be mastered. Think about that. Golf is one of the few games that can never be mastered. In that book, he tells the story of a man who came up to him during one of his lecture appearances and said, Dr. Peck, you talk about God a lot. Why do you do that? Dr. Peck says he was somewhat taken back by that because even though he was now a man of faith at this time, he believed that most of his lectures and presentations were very practical affairs that challenged people to deal with many of the psychological, indeed perhaps psychiatric and psychic issues that are in their life expectations and in their life experiences. He went back and looked at his notes and found out that he generally did not have many God mentions in his manuscripts. But then, as he looked them over again and again, he remembered that oftentimes he would go off script, and indeed he did talk about God quite often. So his question from the man came back to him, why did he do that? This turned into a personal search and self-analysis for the good doctor. He realized that he was seeking to help people who wanted to achieve true health, happiness, and well-being. He was seeking to help them make life more meaningful, live with more aliveness, and have greater purpose in their life and their work. If that is what he was honestly trying to do, then based on what he now knew was true of life, he knew that he had to talk about God and the spirits. And so he responds by saying, how could I not? Now the book becomes personal. The same is true for me. You are asking me why and my colleagues to help you know what is true about being one of the 3% and achieving true success. Knowing what we know about life and business success, how could we not, in all truth, talk about God? You see, in this short book, we've given you very practical advice about working a plan and becoming one of the 3%. We talked about mentoring and performing on the stages of life and business. We encourage you to persist, or in the words of St. Paul, to press on. Now we have to add one more quality to the counsel we give. If you seek success, you must pray to seek the work of God's Spirit in your life. Now, many of you are going to resist this. You're going to say, well, can't I follow these other principles that seem to make a lot of sense without getting into all of this God stuff? You certainly can. And if you follow these simple steps in this book with deep persistence, and if you are committed to those good things about finding the pleasure, the passion, the purpose, and the performance of a 3% person, hopefully you will experience greater success. But remember, there are no guarantees in life, no, not one. If you follow these principles, it will go better for you. Indeed, it may even go well for you. But there's more to this success stuff than just dogged persistence and careful planning. You are going to face tragedies and adversity in your life and business. You are also going to have to wonder at times some of the very evidences of deep transcendences and grace that come into our human experience. You're going to say, what's this all about? Well, you see, that's what happened to Dr. Peck. I recall the writer Teilhard de Chardin, who said, we are not human beings having a spiritual experience. We are spiritual beings having a human experience. And that is true. True indeed. Now, you will discover there are a number of other critical qualities that will help you be successful. You're going to have to be courageous. Indeed, in much of life, it all comes down to courage. You're going to have to become wise. You're going to have to become one of the grown-up ones who seek wisdom so you can better handle the tragedies and the transcendence and the difficulties that come into our life. Dr. Peck began the book, The Road Less Traveled, by simply saying, life is difficult. You're going to have to do more than do the work. You will have to be a creator as well as a hard worker. You're going to have ideas and unique creative energy flowing through your mind, heart, body, and spirit. You are going to need unparalleled energy to accomplish the goals and achieve the things that make a difference in your life. What all of these things have in common is you will discover that you need to be in touch with something way beyond who you are and what you can do. You will need to discover, as Dr. Peck discovered, that if we want to be successful, we must talk about God's place and purpose in our life. How could we not? What does all of this mean? I don't know specifically what it means to you. I just proclaim it as a very powerful and positive truth. You must deal with the God factor. We believe that the God factor is best expressed and found in the person of Jesus Christ. The businessman, the entrepreneur, the teacher, the healer, the Savior, the man who shows us the very face of God and the way that we should live to be fully alive. But it's you who are at choice and must decide. We cannot decide for you or direct you in a specific path. We simply thank you for reading this book and challenge you that your true success will take into account the things that we have taught you and have learned together in this book. But you must also seek the ways that will lead you into the purpose of the living God who made you and seeks to make it go well for you. And finally, in the classic words, God bless us all, everyone. Thank you for taking time on Sunday night. We'll come back to this, but I hope you listen to that. That is chapter 7 from the book that I wrote that I finally read again, called 3%. That was the Portuguese. And it's only written and published in Portuguese, so maybe I need to put it back into the English it was born in. Thank you for your time. Please listen to this again. I'd love to hear from you. We are ready to go and grow, and you are ready to be invited to be a part of this growing network of people who truly simply say, how can I not? How can I not put God into my life, into my business, into my relationships, into my very life experiences and expectations? How can I not? Well, you know what? You really can't. Hey, Stan Houston, RadioEdge77@gmail.com. Stan Houston, RadioEdge77@gmail.com. I'd love to hear from you. I believe I can help you. I can help you build a business. I can help you perhaps seek a good life. I can perhaps help you deal with the pathologies and problems and things that are dealing with you in your life. I would like to believe that I've got a certain amount of wisdom, and if I don't, I certainly know people who do. Hey, all the best and blessings to you. We'll be back. Bye for now.